If you are looking to buy a cruiser motorcycle for your daily chores, the Bajaj Avenger 180 is the first bike that comes to mind. And why not? It has been here since 2005 and is still the most affordable one you can get. But now there's something else in the market looking to intrude in its space, and that is the Suzuki Intruder. It packs in a lot more kit, costs rupees 15,000 more, and looks, well, let's just say they are attention grabbing. So, can the Suzuki Intruder justify its price over the Avenger, or is it asking for a bit too much?
And to answer that question, we will need to address a few other questions, like which one is more comfortable in the city? Both of these bikes will primarily be used in the urban setting, and that's where they really need to excel.
The Intruder gets a wider seat than the Avenger, which means it feels more plush. But that also means it's harder to get your foot flat on the ground, especially for shorter riders. Also, the handlebar here is higher up and closer to you. Combine that to the light feel from the steering, and it's easier to make U-turns on the Intruder. The Avenger's narrower seat and a lower seat height means it's easier to get your foot firmly on the ground. Also, the lower set foot pegs means it's that much easier to get your foot down constantly in traffic.
But which one is nicer to ride? The Avenger wins the capacity battle with a bigger 180cc motor. It makes 15.5 PS of power, which is slightly more than the Intruder. But even with a smaller 150cc motor, the Intruder makes more torque than the Bajaj. And both of them come with a 5-speed transmission.
Both these bikes get their engines from their sportier naked siblings, but the 180cc motor here has been detuned to feel more relaxed and offer a more cruiser-like character. Combine that to the shorter gearing gearbox and this becomes a very tractable setup. But the gearbox doesn't always slot in properly and throws tantrums to get into neutral.
You can keep the Avenger in 4th and 5th gear in the city and it will amble about without creating any fuss. Open the throttle and it accelerates swiftly. Even from a standstill, the Avenger is quicker to both 60 and 100 km an hour than the Intruder.
This, on the other hand, has the same tune as the Gixxer and hence retains its sporty nature. The refinement levels are impressive and there are barely any vibrations. Even the gearbox is sure slotting, but you have to work it more.
The taller gearing setup here means you are left changing gears more often in the city as compared to the Avenger. Also, the power is not as effortless as you have to open the throttle a bit more for it to kick in. But once that happens, the bike feels sporty and all of this happens without any vibrations, which is cheaper to run. Though the Avenger has a higher displacement, it returns a little over 52 km per litre in the city, which is 4.5 km per litre more than the Intruder. But the Intruder gets back on the highway with a figure of 54 kmpl, and this perfectly describes which environment each bike feels more suitable for. The Avenger rocking it in the city, with the Intruder feeling more at home on the highways. What if you encounter a bad patch of road?
Bajaj has increased the travel of this suspension by 10 mm to offer a more plush ride, whereas the Intruder, it uses a monoshock from the Gixxer, which feels a little too stiff for a cruiser.
Both of these bikes are set up on the stiffer side, but the Avenger does a better job of filtering out the harshness of bumps and potholes. Though over broken roads or with a pillion, it tends to become bouncy. The Intruder translates more of the surface harshness to the rider, especially on sharper undulations, but it remains much better composed with the pillion on board. And speaking of the pillion, the wider seat of the Intruder does a better job of keeping him or her comfortable. But the bigger grab rail on the Avenger will be a boon in supporting their backs on longer journeys. What about the occasional wanderlust?
And in this case, the Intruder wins hands down. Not only does the motor remain more relaxed close to triple-digit speeds on the highway, the monoshock actually helps it keep planted there as well. And the Sporty Underpinnings help to make the bike feel alive in a set of hilly roads. The Avenger, on the other hand, starts to feel stressed at around 80 km an hour with vibrations creeping in from the foot pegs and the handlebars.
Which one packs more equipment? Again, the Intruder. Where the Avenger only gets a basic speedometer with a single trip meter and odometer, the Intruder gets a full digital instrument cluster borrowed from the Jigsaw. And it packs in a speedo, tachometer, gear indicator, clock as well as 2 trip meters. Additionally, on the equipment front, the Intruder also gets tinted driver mirrors, better switchgear and an LED tail light.
The Intruder gets a disc setup on both ends and the front even gets an ABS unit.
The Avenger only gets a front disc, yet it feels more confident in braking and comes to a halt from 80 km an hour in a shorter distance than the Intruder. The Intruder also feels a bit nervous under very hard braking. That said, it does get a single channel ABS, which certainly makes it a safer option on loose surfaces. Finally, which one turns more heads?
Yet again, the Intruder. But only this time, it might not be a positive. There are no two ways about it. This is a polarizing design. You either love it or hate it, and there's a very little chance that it might grow on you.
The chunky front fascia, bulbous fuel tank and the massive tail section are all plastics and make for a rather overgrown motorcycle.
Some of the plastics on the Intruder, of which there are quite a lot, have already begun to rattle, and we fear in the future this might also happen to the rest of them. But the paint and finish quality is top notch. On the other hand, the Bajaj looks clean and simple. And yes, the design has started to show its age, but it will still appeal to a much larger audience. Though the Intruder is offering more features, buying the Avenger at Rs 85,000 is in no way a compromise. It's a pretty basic motorcycle that does its job really well, especially inside the urban environment. What the Intruder offers is versatility and a certain amount of premiumness, though the looks still remain a hit or a miss. It takes on city well, is better suited for highway roads and is a joy on the winding hard roads. And in our honest opinion, a premium of about 7 to 8,000 rupees would have been easily justifiable. As it stands, the Intruder costs about ₹1 lakh in the market. If you like the way it looks and don't mind paying the 15,000 rupees extra, it is the way to go. The Intruder in many ways is a better motorcycle, but Bajaj's value for money game is just too strong, and that makes the Avenger our choice of an urban cruiser.